Hello, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. So, y'all, it is cold out here in Florida, and I know I'm not going to get a lot of sympathy. My friends up north just make fun of me because they're like, "Oh, look at you! You have to wear socks with your sandals," and my champagne is too bubbly and my lobster's too buttery. But you know what? It's cold for us. So, and my voice is a little strained. I'm not sure if it's because I've been chanting a lot. I've been singing in a punk band. Could be, but I like to say that it gives me a little extra sexy on my podcast. So I hope that you enjoy it. Not sure if it will be here for the next couple. It might be because I'm batching them today. So you're welcome for the sexy voice. So today I want to talk about ways to help your metabolism if you're feeling sluggish, fatigued, and this really goes in alignment with the great elements of the body and the sudden change in weather that most of our nation is experiencing. So, I am going to talk about something called Ayurveda, which is the science of life. It is a ancient medicinal system from India, and it has many, many different parts. But I'm going to be talking about one little tiny part today. I'm going to be talking about doshas, and I'm going to be talking about the elements of the earth. So the elements of the earth are called the Mahapanchabhutas, so the great five elements. And these are earth, Prithvi, Agni or fire, Jala or up, water, wind or Vayu, and Akash or ether, right? So we have these five elements. You see similar elements reflected in Chinese medicine, except for they have wood and metal reflected, but there's a lot of overlap. And I really love it when we have overlap in some of these traditional medical systems because, we are of the earth, are we not? We have minerals inside of our body, right? That's undisputable, right? We have, calciums, we have zincs, we have magnesiums, we have copper, right? So we have like precious metals and different minerals inside of our body that are great conductors. So the doshas are a part of Ayurveda, and they have very much to do with the elements. So there is a great dosha quiz that you can take. I believe it's Banyan Botanicals is one of my favorite, and it's been recommended to me, and I've also recommended to people. It's quick, it's free, and they also have great products. I'm not sponsored by them, but maybe I will be. um, so you can find out what your dosha is. And your dosha just basically tells you essentially what your constitution is. Now, there's prakriti, which is your essential constitution, essentially can't be changed. And then there's your vikriti, which might be like your imbalance of constitution, right? So I might be a kapha, but I have a vata imbalance, or I might be a vata, but I have a pitta imbalance. And what does all this mean? So, what this means is if you have an excess or like your constitution is more of certain minerals or like fire, things like that, then you're going to be more pitta. So pitta is a combination of fire and a little bit of water, right? So it's Agni and Jala, which I am very pitta. I have red hair, I have a fiery temperament. I have a tendency when I get overheated, I get very angry. I was going to say annoyed, but sometimes it goes straight from annoyed to angry unless I'm, watching myself. Then we have kapha. Kapha is water and earth. So mostly earth, bit of water, those two elements mixed. And then vata is wind and a bit of ether. So we have the five elements expressed in these three doshas. Now, if we have a particular dosha, so let's say that we are pitta, which is me. I have a tendency to get too fiery. Hot yoga is not good for me. I used to teach it before I knew all about this stuff. And honestly, I was disgusted by hot yoga for probably about 3 years after that. Like, it would make me viscerally, like, almost get angry if I thought about taking a hot yoga class because I taught so much and I just felt like I sweat out all of my electrolytes. And just thinking about it made me tired and exhausted and angry. So that is not something that would be good for me. Rather, if I'm already having a lot of fire inside of me, what is good for me is cooling exercises like yin yoga, like meditation, which I do pretty much every day. So, and then coconut water, like that is a cooling drink. Cilantro is a cooling spice. So those kinds of things are really good for my constitution. Now, when we need to consider also, so for example, it's cold here, right? So that's why I'm wearing a jacket while I'm recording this podcast, is it's a little chilly. And when it's chilly outside, especially with a sudden drop, our metabolism has a tendency to also drop a little bit too. We feel sluggish. We feel, it's like, oh, it's cold. I don't want to go outside of my bed, or I want to stay under the covers. It's that sort of like hibernation mentality kicks in. But the truth is that most of us are, oh, it's like, it dropped 20 degrees. I get to sleep in for an extra hour. For most of us, that's not feasible, right? So I wanted to talk today about a recipe. I call them a metabolic shooter. And it is a recipe that's super simple, that you can jumpstart your metabolism. You can have it before breakfast and lunch if you're really kind of like stuck or constipated, anything like that. And I'll tell you what, it definitely gets things going, especially if you have sluggish metabolism. It will help you digest your food better, and it helps to build up your stomach fire so that you can digest your food better. You can feel more energized in your body, and it also helps to reduce inflammation. If we have a sluggish metabolism, then food is going to take longer to get through our system. And when that happens, we have a better chance of it becoming ama, or toxins. And when we have toxins in the digestive system, anything that's not broken down properly is stored as adipose tissue, which is fat. So, and that's, I am a very curvaceous yogi. I always have been, and nothing wrong with body size, body positivity, all there for it. I will say though, if we have excess that doesn't feel right on our body, it's uncomfortable, it puts extra pressure on our joints. And, also we're not feeling our best because your physical digestive system does not just digest food, it also digests your emotions. And so if you are not tending to your metabolism when the weather changes or situations change, like stress levels, sleep levels, etc., then you're more prone to get ill, right? Having a healthy digestive system also keeps you healthy because it keeps your immune system boosted. If your stomach fire isn't right, or your flora's off, or your microbiome, then there's more chance of pathogens to get in there and kind of set up camp. Whereas if the environment isn't right, they just kind of pass on through, or your body will literally burn them up. Same thing with parasites, which we can also consider pathogens. Um, there is, her name is, gosh, I'm forgetting. Her last name is Gerson, and she is the granddaughter of Max Gerson, who developed the Gerson therapy method, who is a huge inspiration to me. He is probably most well known for his coffee enemas. And anyways, there was a quote by his granddaughter, and it is that all disease stems from excess toxicity and basically depletion of nutrition. I'm summarizing, but if we do not have proper nutrition, so it's not just what you eat, it is how you digest. And so, anyways, on to the recipe. So the recipe is pretty simple, and you have to have either a high-speed blender, or you can use like a little coffee or spice grinder, just like ding, ding, like that's my coffee ground sound, ding, ding, and it will grind up the spices for you. So it is as such. So this is enough for 2 servings, 2 shooters. So you can take a half a thumb of ginger, that's my thumb, half of that, and half of a thumb of turmeric, fresh, so not the powdered stuff, and I'll tell you why. Because when you have spices in their whole form and you grind them up fresh, the medicinal qualities are present. When you grind up spices and they sit for years and years, like curry powder that is just, ground up and just sitting there as powder, it loses its medicinal qualities. It's not as potent. That goes with anything, right? So any sort of vitamins, if they sit there for too long, what happens, right? The potency goes down. When you freshly grind something, like freshly chopped vegetables, freshly juice, right? The juice is actually a great example, because after 3 days, fresh juice will pretty much go bad. It becomes from sattvic, which is like healthy and nourishing, to tamasic, which is like, it starts to get heavy. It's like the life is kind of sucked from it. So you want to make sure that you fresh grind the spices. So turmeric, ginger, and then we have fennel, coriander, and cumin. And each of those you want to do about half a tablespoon. And a little bit of black pepper. You can either put that in the grinder, just a couple of seeds, not too much, because it gets spicy. And don't want it too spicy because we have to have a balance. If it's too spicy, you might cough or might irritate your throat. So grind it up and then add about 3 to 4 ounces of water and hot water. Make sure it's hot because that helps the spices to digest. And then you can add a little bit of honey for sweetener. I usually add just a touch of honey and it just goes down real easy. That's enough for 2 shots. That's enough for morning, before breakfast, and then before lunch. And if you have it about 15 to 20 minutes before any of your meals, your digestion is gonna rev up. Whatever you eat will be digested much more easily. And if you are constipated or feeling sluggish, the ginger especially is super energizing. So definitely don't have it with your last meal because you'll be zipping around the house. And when you take back those spices, they have antioxidant properties too. That's another reason why you want to do them fresh. So they're energizing. The turmeric has curcumin in it, which helps with inflammation. And it does so many other things. The body clears out the sinuses, helps with lymph flow. If you're eliminating from your bowels regularly, then you feel healthier, you feel more energized, your weight is managed, you are thinking more clearly, right? Because again, when we have toxins, whether they be emotional or physical, then you can't. It's like you're in a cloud. Kind of like grimy feeling. Like if you don't get a good night's sleep, or let's say if you fly to India, econ, and you're like kind of in an upright position for more than a day, like you feel kind of grimy, right? It's like even if you shower, you like feel dirty because your organs didn't detox properly. Your cerebral spinal fluid wasn't released up your spine because that releases when you're flat and sleeping. And if you're like on a plane, if I make a clip, I bet you that face that I just made is going to be the front of the clip. Anyways, that's just my luck. But if your body isn't in a proper position to be able to detox, it won't. So that can lead to feeling groggy and feeling stuck. So again, you can go onto Banyan Botanicals and you can find out what your dosha is. Your dosha is, you're going to lean towards one. You might be bidoshic, or you might be tridoshic, or I'm almost all pitta with a touch of vata. And that took a while for me to figure out because my Vikriti was kapha for a while because I had like a lot of pathogens and parasites and all types of yucky stuff, which if you're like, ew, that's gross, everyone has them. I lived in Asia for a long time, and so I needed to take things like ivermectin and other things to kind of clear myself out. So anywho, those are my metabolic shooters. I hope that you enjoy. Just for protection purposes, I am not a medical professional. I'm not an Ayurvedic doctor. This is literally your homegirl who has, upwards of 20 experience of yoga. And I've had to heal myself from everything from eating disorder to fibromyalgia to chronic fatigue and, a host of border autoimmune diseases. All right, y'all. I hope that you have a fantastic week. Thank you for tuning in. Namaste.